problem to you. So I mean, it's not possible to in our part to go for online. I mean, face-to-face classes because no study center is opening now. So what you feel it is the best medium to start interacting and have a interactive counseling session through online mode because everybody is staying in the home. So through this Google platform, you can join with different part of the Odisha. So I mean, what are the problem you are facing? What are the your doubts? So keep it on mute mode of all the students. So your resource person, Dr. MP Das, Manju Prabha Das is present. So she's a senior most academician. She's a very good scholar. So regarding your assignment problem, how to write an assignment, I mean how it's helpful to you, and another aspect, I mean the important aspect regarding examination form fill up is going on. Your examination will go to held on June. So before opening the examination, you have to fill up your form. The form fill up date is up to April 30th. So dear learners, kindly fill up your form. It's an online form. So each paper you have to pay 150 rupees. You have a three paper, so you have to pay 450 rupees. So kindly fill up the form. Then you can able to appear the examination. And also you have to submit your assignment. The assignment question is available online. The website is www.ignore.ac.in. Go to the website, download the assignment question. The fresh assignment set is present there. Then you have to start writing your assignment and submit your assignment in your study center. When the pandemic will over, then you will submit your assignment on your study center. So now I handed over the platform to our counselor, Manju ma'am. So over to ma'am. Now you can start your presentation.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Hello. Good afternoon to all the students joined here.
Just a minute, ma'am. Maybe in between our regional director can join. So if he'll join, he will address for 2-3 minutes. Okay. You start your presentation.
Sure. MRD paper 1, we will study about rural development in Indian context. We will start rural society and economy. Okay, I have prepared some PowerPoint presentation slides. I will want to show you so that you will be able to know about the features in detail. Just a minute, I will connect you to the presentation mode. Okay. I hope it's visible. Hello, Santosh sir, is it visible? Is the PowerPoint visible? The rural society, the concept of rural society. According to 2001 census, 72.22% of Indians live in about 6,038,691 villages. I mean 6,38,691 villages of India consists of about 72.22% of Indians. That means that around 60 above more than 60% people live in villages. While speaking about the Indian villages, one has in mind several types of communities, small multi-caste, some having the members of just one caste. Because It is in our mindset already. There is in our mindset that a village means this much, and demographically it is limited to a small place. This is about what we perceive as a layman, what we are perceiving. What is a village? That we are meant, or what we perceive from our childhood also, that a village would be like that. What is the real concept of village? The ideal model, as it was defined by various demographics, various rural economists and sociologists. From sociological point of view, the term rural society implies that in comparison with the urban society, it is a small society, meaning thereby that it has a small population and extends over a shorter physical area. Okay. Here, in comparison to the urban society, there are small population. Various institutions like police stations, hospitals, schools, post offices, clubs, etc. may not be there. And if existent, then they are not available in plenty. The density of the rural population is also low, and it may be clustered according to the criteria of social status. In other words, people occupying the same status may share the same neighborhood. Means, as in the urban area, in the rural areas, people are not so dense in a small place. So a small number of people live there. This is all about rural. Then what is about tribes and peasants? According to the recently circulated draft of National Policy on Tribal Populations of India, there are 67.8 million scheduled tribes persons, constituting about 8.08% of India's population. What is meant by this? The people whom we tell as the STs or scheduled tribes, they constitute about 8.8% of India's population. When we are telling that more than 60% people live in rural areas, 8.8% people are tribes. There are 698 scheduled tribes spread all over India, bearing the states of Haryana and Punjab and the union territories like Chandigarh, Delhi and Puducherry. Odisha has the largest number of 68 of scheduled tribes. Odisha has the largest number of scheduled tribes, like 6
Hello, sir, is audible?
Yes, everything is
Madam,
audible.
wait.
Hello.
Madam, wait.
Oh.
Sir is there. Now our regional director is joined now.
Okay.
So, dear students, now request to our regional director, he will address to all of you. He will speak few words about the IGNOU and about the schools. Sir, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Panigai. Let me first of all welcome all the students of Certificate in Rural Development.
Photo address
Dear students, you are requested to kindly mute your speaker. Otherwise, there is overlapping of voices. I welcome all the students of CRD to IGNOU fraternity. You are really fortunate that you have joined in a program which is offered by the largest open university in the world, that is Indira Gandhi National Open University, which is popularly known as People's University. It is a mega university, and its infrastructure and its network is not only limited to our country, its network is also available in some foreign countries. Therefore, the standard of education that you are going to get to this university is of international standard, and you are a proud student of this mega university, which is providing lot of academic programs which are of vocational, professional and skill oriented programs. And this CRD program is specially oriented towards developing in the minds of the learners, those who developing in the minds of the learner the basic knowledge through which they can establish themselves in the rural sector. Those who are interested to build up their career in the rural development sector, this particular program will be of immense use or immense benefit for them. Friends, I'm very happy that you have joined in large number. Of course, 23 students have already joined, and many more will join a little later. We have sent communication to all of you, and this is a stopgap arrangement that we have made. Stopgap arrangement in the sense that we are just passing through a very tough time. The time is very tough in the sense that we are locked down at home. Study centers are closed, regional centers, all regional centers throughout the country are closed. And, why only regional centers? All educational institutions. And therefore, teaching, learning in the classroom is not taking place. Therefore, we have explored this particular platform, and wanted to reach out to you, of course, with the support of the academic counselors. Madam is already there, Manju Madam, and she will be teaching you about, various aspects pertaining to CHR1, the first course. Of course, it is possible because of the support, with the support of the appointed academic counselors or empaneled academic counselors of Indira Gandhi Open University. We are very much thankful to them, Madam. I must extend my heartfelt thanks to you, so that because you had accepted our request and came online to reach out to the students, and so this is something which is very satisfying. And one thing I must tell to our students that I don't know whether all of you have received the study materials or not. If you have not received the study materials, you need not worry, because the soft copy of the study material is already available in the IGNOU's website. You can very well download them going to the link eGyan If you go to IGNOU's website, you will find eGyan and there you will get the link and download the study material. And for the time being, just go through the study material. Of course, the printed copy of the study material will reach your home maybe after this lockdown period is over. So till such time you have to manage, and because your certificate program is of 6 months duration, and there is very little time in between, because this June, in the month of June, you are going to take the first term examination. So time is very short. Therefore, we decided to have this kind of introduction through this Google platform. Maybe some sort of academic support will be provided to you, and you will not face any difficulty. Your doubts will be clarified. If there are doubts or difficulties, please note down. And after the presentation is over, please ask those or put up those points before the counselor, so that discussion will take place and your doubts will be clarified. So this is something which you must take note of. And the second thing is that, you see, examination will be in the month of June, I told you, but you are not confident. If you are not confident, suppose you have not prepared properly for this examination, you need not worry. You can take the next examination also, because our system is a flexible system. You will be getting number of chances. So if you cannot take the June term examination, you can take the December term examination. So sufficient time is there. And one most important thing I would like to bring to your notice, that please form a peer group. Just 2-3 friends or 4-5 friends, you form a group and get in touch with every group member, so that you will not miss any communication which is normally provided to you by the study center, either by the study center or by the regional center. So group formation is very important, and majority of the issues can be sorted out in the group itself, because there may be something which is known to one group member which may not be known to you. So that group member will share the information to you. So similarly, if he doesn't know anything, and if you know that particular solution, you just share with him. So that way, if you interact, lot of issues can be resolved, and you'll be more confident, and successfully you can complete the program. No doubt counselors are there, but counseling classes are limited. It is practically not possible on the part of counselor to touch upon every tidbit of the study material. It is not possible. So our counselors are normally advised, or are normally requested to touch upon the main points, and address your queries or address your difficulties. So that is the style of academic counseling, and you should not expect also the thorough teaching on the part of the counselors. So that is absolutely not possible within a very short time. So please take those things into consideration. And because you are self-motivated, independent learners, majority of the things you have to do by yourself. You have to explore possibilities in getting academic resources from various fields. You see, study material is not the only resource. There may be other learning resources related to your CRT program which you can get from other sources. Please explore that and try to extract maximally out of that. And these days, friends, so many websites are there which have rich contents, which have those websites have so many learning resources. All those things are free to download. They are free, you are free to download. They are open courseware, open source courseware, OER, open educational resources, OER. So anybody who is interested to upgrade his or her knowledge and skill can download those materials and use them. Okay, so Swayam platform is there, Swayam Prabha platform is there, then Gyan Darshan, Gyanvani, then Ignos e-Gyan Kosh, and you can go to so many digital libraries, developed by so many important institutions. So all those resources should be profitably utilized, and for that you need a internet connection, and with a desktop or laptop computer, maybe in your smartphone you can download all those resources. Okay. So please do that, and you should give maximum emphasis to learning, because it is learning which is important. Development of knowledge and skill is important, not simply getting a degree or qualification, because that degree will not be helpful to you unless and until it is mingled with some knowledge or some skill, isn't it? If it is not associated with skill, then that degree is absolutely no use. So certificate in rural development is a very prestigious program. It is a very old program offered by this university, and many people, those who are working in the rural sector, have joined and they have benefited. We have, we have lots of information pertaining to this, that people have established themselves in the rural sector. Even those who are already employed in different rural development sectors, they have also joined this certificate in rural development program. And because this program is the program which is giving lots of technical know-how of rural development. So please take it up seriously, honestly, and proactively. You should not be a casual learner. You should be a serious learner, and you should see that whatever opportunities are coming in your way, they are properly exploited, they're properly utilized. And this is a small platform we have created for you for learning, and this particular platform should be utilized only for learning. So friends, we are with you. The study center staff members, those who are working, are also with you. The university is always thinking about the development of the students. And we at the regional centers are also working for you dedicatedly. Any problem, any issue which is bothering you from time to time, please feel free to pass on those information to us, so that our officers or the academics working at the regional center will try to bring a proper solution to it, and your problem will be properly resolved. Okay, so many opportunities will be given to you, and we shall be sending you communication from time to time. So you will never remain as an isolated learner. You definitely feel that you are very much a part and parcel of the entire educational system of Indira Gandhi National Open University. So friends, I will not take much of your precious time, because madam is waiting and she must be feeling bored. So thank you very much for participating, and we'll expect that the discussions that will take place today and in future classes also will be fruitful. Thank you very much. Over to madam,
Sure,
Madam
sir.
Nandita.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Already, I mean, what I can tell you just one thing. The eCampus link is given to all the students, and you have created a WhatsApp group also. The link is given in the WhatsApp group also. I think everybody is download the materials, and you can go through with the materials. Thank you, ma'am. So now you can go ahead proceed with your presentation, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. very nicely Tripathi sir told about the prospects of your online learning, and you should, you, all the students should take care of and should be motivated by his speech, nice speech, and should use the prospects usefully by your side. Okay, we are in the topic of tribes and peasants. Okay. There are 698 scheduled tribes spread all over India, pairing the states of Haryana and Punjab and the union territories like Chandigarh, Delhi, and Pondicherry. Orissa has the largest number, that is about 68 of scheduled tribes in total. So the rural area not only consists of only rural people, it also consists of rural people or the villagers, tribes, and peasants. In defining a tribe, what is a tribe? A tribe, when we are telling about a tribe, emphasis is laid on the isolation of its members from the wider world, because a tribe has almost negligible relations with other communities. What is a tribe? When people are living apart from the normal area, they are living with a different lifestyle, they having their own culture, which has a little resemblance with the culture of those communities that have enjoyed long-term interaction among themselves. That is known as a tribe. A tribe has its own culture, own the way of living they live is totally different from the others, and the reason they stay at an isolated place, that is something different from others, and their culture is also others different from others. That is what literally called as the cultural isolates. Rural and urban societies, what are the differences and relationships? We are telling about the rural societies, we are telling about the urban societies, and how these are different from one another and how they are related with one another, we will discuss here. When we see about the food production, where the food is produced? Mainly in agricultural lands. So, food production is related to rural areas, and the urban people use the products or consume the products. So difference is that in rural areas produce food stuffs, and the urban areas consume them. So here there is the difference, and also there is the relationship between the rural and urban societies. In occupation also, the rural people are mostly occupied, or mostly their occupation is based on agriculture and allied activities. Mainly, they are related to the occupations to the agricultural land, livestock, animal or cattle rearing, etc. And the urban people depend upon them to get the other services and also productions. Economic activities, for small things like the food materials or the foodstuffs or grains or vegetables, we depend upon rural areas, rural people, and the rural people depend upon the urban areas to get the basic necessary commodities like what finished products. They provide the paddy and get the rice from the urban areas. Likewise, all the finished products like for any soap or books or whatever materials or the other commodity, for other commodities, they contact rural people, contact urban people or urban areas, and the urban people are related to the rural areas. Migration, rural people migrate or go to the urban areas for employment purpose, for market purpose, or for any other purpose like being settled, or for education, for any other aspect. And The urban people also migrate to the rural areas. Maybe that may be due to marriage. When a woman married to if to the man of rural area, then she migrates. Or after completion of the occupation life, they migrate to their own village. So migration is also, there is difference and also relationship in between rural and urban societies. Then exchange of services. Exchange of services, we urban people depend upon rural people, and rural people also depend upon urban people for different reasons. For example, we take the services of them, and the rural people take the goods and services from urban areas. Likewise, for commodities also, we are dependent upon each other. Then we will discuss about what are the little and great traditions. Traditions are the aspects which are there from a long time, which are there in our life from a long time. What is little and what is great? We know the traditions. Then we emphasize some traditions are very important one, and on some traditions we give.
Nine percent religious.
So, what is little tradition? A little community has the following characteristics, such as small size, largely self-sufficient, homogeneous. Homogeneous means belonging to one category, and relatively isolated. Its members are generally unlettered. Unlettered means they are not so much literate or so much educated, and that is their tradition is not based upon reading and writing. Generally, in rural areas, they are not self-sufficient enough to get all these good services and commodities up to them. Then they are homogeneous, not heterogeneous, like the caste creed and all other races are not heterogeneous, relatively isolated. Isolated means they are not spreaded like the urban or the metro cities. Its members are generally unlettered, means that they are not highly educated, or mainly most of the adults are illiterate, and their tradition is not based upon reading and writing. Mostly you see the urban people are mainly involved in reading, writing, and industrial aspects, but in rural area, this is not limited to that. Then they accept their tradition as it is without subjecting it to any critical scrutiny. In urban areas, particularly we the people, when we get education, we develop a sense of consciousness and and we develop curiosity of asking questions, whether it is okay, whether it is right or wrong, whether we should accept it or not. But in rural areas, particularly, are trained in such a way that they are not getting the chance to question about the authenticity of an aspect. So, this is known as the little tradition. What are the characteristics of a little tradition? The tradition of the little community is known as little tradition because it is defined as unliterate, means non-literate or illiterate, who are unreflective, they do not know critically, examine or comment upon it, and accept it as it is. As I told, as I explained, they don't raise questions on any aspect. This tradition is cultivated at home and is transmitted from one generation to the next as part of the process of socialization. Because so in the socialization process from the childhood, they are taught that you have to accept this as you have been taught at the home, as in the name of culture or in the name of village or whatever. They are trained to accept this as it is. So, what are the characteristics of a great tradition? It is the tradition of the lettered people who are few in number. In rural areas, particularly the literate or educated or highly educated people are very less in number. They are reflective. They think about the tradition, make it sophisticated and systematize it, thus making it universal. There is questions. They want to make some changes. This tradition is cultivated in separate and distinct institutions such as temples, mosques, churches, synagogues, etc. It is transmitted as a part of the specialized, rigorous, and long learning in which the individual is expected to internalize the tradition correctly. Whatever the tradition is trained, whether that should be accepted without any question or should be questioned. That is the characteristics of a great tradition. So, in our rural area, both the little and great traditions are available there. Little traditions and great traditions interact constantly, as a result of which continuity is established between them. Why? Because all are not the same. The little child, when we come across our next generation, then definitely there comes some changes. There comes we confront some questions. That is the great tradition. When the questions which we were not faced before, we are facing it now. The online teaching system, for example, that you were getting it now, we were not getting in our times. That is the great tradition of this time. Okay. Then cultural traits from the little tradition are carried forward to the great tradition where they are systematized. It is not particular that we are not following the trends, we are not following the traditions or culture or cultural traits, but the cultural traits from the little traditions are carried forward and to the great tradition where they are systematized, dependent on each other. So, the little tradition and great tradition both are dependent on each other. Then we will discuss about types of villages. What are the basic types of villages? What are the types of villages in India? Particularly, we know that it could be classified on the basis of size. First one is we know about the nucleated village and dispersed village. What is nucleated village? Particularly, it is considered on the basis of homestead land and cultivable land. What is a homestead land? Which is the villages which are not suitable for cultivation, and the villages which are suitable for cultivation are known as your cultivable land. In nucleated villages, all the households are clustered together in a compact unit surrounded on all sides by cultivable land. In nucleated villages, there are cultivable lands are there in enough in plenty but plentifully you could see cultivable lands around the villages, surrounding the villages. When households are distributed over a large area and each cluster of a few houses is separated by cultivable land, it is known as dispersed land. You could see it. If you take a look, then definitely you could see that some villages you could see that the houses are in a particular place gathered or the surrounding is surrounded by cultivable land, and in some places the villages you could see that there are houses, and after that some cultivable lands are there dividing the houses from others. That is known as your dispersed village. Dispersed means separated from one to another. So this is about your nucleated village, dispersed village, and which are particularly classified according to the surrounding of cultivable lands. Then rural demography. What is demography? The meaning of demography particularly means that the scientific and statistical study of population. What is population? All the people living in a particular place is known as population, and the scientific and statistical study of this population, in particular the size of various types of population, their development and structure, is known as your demography. What is demographic database? The database is the different sources of demographic data available in India and their usefulness in making developmental decisions. When development is possible, when you will know about the people, when you will know about the ages, the male-female ratio, the number of children, then only you could decide about what kind of developmental programs could be availed there or could be programmed there. So the demographic database is necessary. How the demographic database could we get? Through census. What is census? The first census in India was conducted in 1872, and since 1881 it has been undertaken regularly every 10 years, where every little bit of population is being recorded through survey. Census is a valuable and authentic source and can provide information at the lowest possible aggregation. In addition to these age, sex, marital status, mainly we take three aspects: age, sex, and marital status, and also we divide all the aspects like literacy and education and other aspects according to these three bases: age. We categorize according to the on the basis of age, sex, male, female, and marital status. It provides information about their socio-economic characteristics like literacy and education, religion of the head of the household, occupation, and the industrial classification of the labor force, the available household and community amenities, health facilities, post offices, banks, schools, etc., and housing conditions in the village or in the particular area where the survey is conducted. The compositions of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe households are also made available in the census. The other aspect is civil registration system. What is civil registration system? It is the continuous recording of vital events such as births, deaths, marriages, etc. It is generally a compulsory recording done according to the legal requirements of the country as per the provision made by official orders of the nation. We have to register every birth, every day, and all the marriages are to be registered, and this is known as your civil registration system. Then sample survey. What is sample surveys in which information is collected on a sample are particularly suitable for providing a variety of information with a fair degree of precision, fair degree of uh, channels in which information is collected on a sample basis are particularly suitable for providing a variety of information with a fair degree of precision. How it will be precisely uh, define all the categories, all the aspects of a population. Sample surveys have become a major means for collecting information on a variety of demographic and health related indicators. It is all about the people and also their health. Size, growth, and distribution of population. Though the percentage of the rural population shows a moderate decline over the years, our rural population is declining from time to time. You can see the declining rate in your book. It is given as in the table. The highest growth rate recorded by Nagaland 63.37%, and the lowest by Madhya Pradesh that is 12.90%, and 28 states in the country, as many as several recorded growth rates higher than the national average 19.08%. And it is called the so-called the seven states: Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, as known as your Bimaru states, belong the two different categories who are always in the lower developed states. Then sex composition of rural population. Here we will study about the dynamics of different sex ratios. It is an important social indicator used to measure the extent of the prevailing equity between males and females in a society at a given point in time. So, whether males are whether the male category people are larger or the female category, you can just know you can know about them. And what will happen if you know about the sex ratio? You could go for different development programs for them. If you think that the women category, the female ratio is declining from day to day, then you can go for different programs so that the balance could be maintained properly. Then, according to the 2001 census, the sex ratio in India stands at 933 females per 1000 males, which is an improvement of 6 points over 927 recorded in the 1991 census. And even in 2011 census, it is further degraded as 927 females per 1000 males, though it has been improving, but still it needs more attention. Then what are the age composition of rural population? The age composition is another basic characteristic of a population. It not only influences the rate of growth but also enables us to determine the proportion of labor force in the total population as well as the dependency ratio. Why the age composition is required? Because up to a particular age only, the people could use the labor, it could be utilized as the labor force, because all the age categories could not go for labor force. Basically, the age composition of the population is determined by three factors. First one is your fertility, next mortality, and then migration. What is fertility? It is the birth ratio. It is the birth rate per year. How many children are taking birth? Mortality, how many people are getting death? And migration, how many people are being migrated from rural to urban places or urban to rural places. These factors are interdependent, and any change in one of these may influence the other two, because fertility is related to mortality and migration, and mortality or migration is also related to fertility and mortality. Fertility and so fertility, mortality, and migration are interrelated with each other. Fertility and mortality rate shows that with an improvement in the general health conditions, the rate would be declined. So, since the decline in the birth rate is more than that in the death rate, the rate of growth of population has shown a rapid increase. Then migration. Why people migrate from one place to another? Why people migrate? Particularly, people migrate for employment. To get an employment, particularly the youth or particularly the adults go from one place to another, from rural to urban areas, to be settled in any industry or any educational activities or educational sector, they migrate. Then education. So in rural areas, there is no more facilities available for higher educations, for higher studies. So for this also people migrate from one place to another to get higher education. Family movement. When the employees move from one place to another, then definitely, ultimately, the family also moves with them. If a person from a service sector transfers from one place to another, from in urban area to village area, then definitely his or her family will also move. Or same thing can happen from rural area to urban area. Then marriage. When women marry from one place to another place, they ultimately migrate. Then natural calamities. When a situation of a particular place devastates, then ultimately people go leave that place and prefer to live in a better place. So, particularly, these are the reasons: employment, education, family movement, marriage, and natural calamities are the reasons for migration. Then the literacy rate. The literacy rate varies considerably across the states. Kerala continues in the top position, followed by Lakshadweep and Mizoram. Bihar, on the other hand, has recorded the lowest literacy rate. The clear chart has given in your study material. The rural male literacy is more than 70% in 24 states. It is only if we consider the male-female differential that our rural literacy rate comes to be as low as 59%. The only positive sign seen in the 2001 census is that the gender gap has decreased, though marginally in comparison with that shown in the earlier two census. Then how demography and development are interlinked with each other. It increases the pressure of numbers on a nation's land resources. When people increases, when population increases, then definitely it gives a pressure on the nation's land resources. All resources are will get affected by population increase or decrease. It tends to accelerate this pressure through time by accelerating the rate at which the store of existable and non-replaceable natural resources are used up and the costs of their use are increased. Means when you are five members are living in your family and you are earning 10,000 rupees, then definitely 2,000 will be your per capita purchasing power. And when your family members increases, then the per capita purchasing power will decrease ultimately. And if your family member decreases, then it will increase. It diminishes the rate at which capital can be accumulated, and this diminution accordingly in a state or nation also the demography or the number of population affects is greatly accentuated when much of the potential capital is utilized in maintaining the children who eventually die before they reach a productive age. When poverty is there due to large number of population, poverty takes place and that leads to malnutrition and other aspects, and where eventually the children die before they reach a productive age. So we have to take care of this. Given the rate of capital formation, the rate at which the labor force can be increased is also reduced. That is how the demography and development is interlinked or interdependent on each other. Then we will go for the unit 3, rural social structure. We will touch most of the important points throughout the book of your block 1, because we have a limited time of 2 hours only, and within that you will ask your queries regarding your study material or assignment or anything. So we'll keep 10 to 15 minutes for that. So before 3:45, I will try to finish all the materials up to touching most important points as quick as possible and with clarity. In rural social structure, there are four main things. First one is your caste system, second structure of the village, and judge money system, and families. What is caste? Caste is the main social institution of Indian village, particularly referred to as jati, jat, or different words, various local terms used for collectivity of people related also by the ties of kinship and marriage, which has a monopoly over an occupation. It is how the caste comes to us by birth, by ties of kinship, either by birth or by marriage. It comes to us automatically. We don't need to uh, buy it or take it from other sources. It comes to us automatically. It provides specialized services, particularly in rural areas. Occupation are limited to different castes. They are determined by the caste, and particularly castes are assigned to do some occupations. Members of a caste marry within their own caste, but usually outside their own villages and rural areas. That is known as your hypergamy. The classical Hindu tradition with Manusmriti, the great sage known as Manu, had authored the book Manusmriti, who had assured that the classical Hindu tradition permits marriage of hypergamy, not hypogamy. Hypergamy means a man from a upper caste could marry to a woman of lower caste, but a woman from a upper caste could not marry a man from a lower caste. This is known as hypergamy. A person acquires the members of his or her caste by birth, that is, caste is ascriptive in nature and theoretically it cannot be changed. It is immutable. Means you can change, you can't take it or buy it from others. It automatically comes to you by birth. And all the culture and duties are associated with it according to the caste. Caste in villages. In villages, particularly caste plays very major role. A village may be conceptualized as an aggregate of caste is traditionally associated with an occupation. You can see the names of villages with the castes also. A particular physical space in the village which may come to be known after the name of the caste like Dhobi Barak or that we literally know the settlement of the laundrymen and likewise. The classification based on economic facts is also called as the class system. This is that was your caste system. Then what is your class system? Class is an indicator of the distribution of economic inequality in the society. In the caste also, in different caste also, there are also various distributions or categories, and the categories are according to the economic inequalities, whether from caste or out of caste, whatever it may be. There are some classes that is being described by the society, the community only. The term power stratification, on the other hand, is used for inequality in terms of the decision-making ability by which as Max Weber says, are able to impose their will on others. The caste and class and power are related, are interlinked with each other in rural areas, particularly because people give more importance to the higher caste with a better class and with more the people having more power in position, they get more importance. So caste, class, and power all are linked with each other in rural areas. Then the Jajamani system. This second most important aspect of rural social structure is the Jajmani system. What is the Jajmani system? It is the interdependence between castes. How the castes are dependent upon each other? In two ways, castes are dependent upon each other. A caste provides its goods and services to other castes in exchange for payment in kind of cash, but this payment is done instantly. How? For example, you can take that the barber cuts the hair of the but the your uh, the head of a household person who is of a upper caste. So, in the with the exchange of this service, he pays some money to the barber. This is the requirement of the barber to earn something, and also the requirement of the person of the upper caste to get the service done by the barber. So here both the upper caste man is dependent upon the barber, and the barber is dependent upon the other person. The latter buy goods and commodities from the shop of the local merchant. The barber ultimately will go to buy goods and commodities from the shop of the local merchant, and the person who cut his hair, he also got the service from the barber. So here both are dependent upon each other. So this is the interdependence between castes. Then social mobility. The Indian villages were never a self-sufficient social and economic unit. We know all these problems that the villages of India are not self-sufficient. Everything you require will not be available in those villages in our India. It has relations with the outside world. Benefiting by the changes emerging in it, many people were able to find respectable places in villages. As a consequence, different units of the villages were able to move up. But still, people are dependent upon other villages or cities for getting the services, commodities, and goods from other places. Upper caste adopted the Western way of living. You know, all of us know it that upper castes mostly follow the Western way of living and institutions, and caste below the line of purity had no option but to follow. It has become a trend of, you can say that some kind of exploitation or torture goes on by this kind of attitude. Middle caste followed this process by Sanskritization. So Sanskritization, Westernization, politicization, and desanskritization took place. What is the Sanskritization? When the Brahmins were following some rituals of those were limited to the upper caste Brahmins only. Those were known as the Sanskritization. Then came the Westernization with the effect of Western people, the Britishers, some changes took place, and the politicization. Politicization means the people who come to politics with some application of power and politics, they change something. And there comes some kind of desanskritization where people other than the Brahmins come to the power of position in rural areas. They make some kind of change. One may formulate a composite model of social mobility in India. All these aspects affect and interrelatedly uh, influence the rural areas. Then we will come to the families in rural areas. What is a family? Family is the cornerstone of human society. We can't think of a society without family because family is the basic unit of a social institution. Of the many functions, particularly in family, the most important and non-transferable function is it performs the socialization of children. Without family, we can't rear the children, we can't think of the children uh, to be reared without family. A joint, particularly in our India, three kinds of families are there. First one is your joint family, second extended family, and third is nuclear family. A joint family is defined as an aggregate of kins persons who share a common residence, a common kitchen, a common purse, including property, and a common set of religious objects. What do we mean by this? Particularly the brothers of uh, a male person or the male head of a family and his brothers share common residence, common kitchen, common purse means common earning, even the properties and all other religious objects are also shared commonly. What is an extended family? An extended family is a conglomeration of two or more nuclear families, where two or more small nuclear families. Nuclear families means single families where there is where it comprises of man, his wife, and their unmarried children. This is known as nuclear family, and when two or three nuclear families get combined, means the brother or sisters of your father or your mother, they combinedly stay together, then it is known as your extended family. And when more number of nuclear families are combined together, it becomes joint family. Or you can say that nuclear family, two or three nuclear families become extended families, and when two, three extended families live jointly, then it is known as joint family. Then we will proceed to Unit 4, Rural Economic Structure. When we think about rural economy, then definitely agriculture comes to our mind. What is what we can never ever forget that agriculture is the basic aspect, basic occupation, particularly in rural areas, and for their economic gain, they depend mostly on agriculture. Cultivators and agricultural laborers accounted for about 70% of the rural male labor force in 2001. In 2001, 70% of rural male labor force, even not only the agricultural production, but the rural labor force also dependent upon agriculture. Male and female both. Males are about 70% and the rural female labor force engaged in agricultural sector is was about 80%. And this continues to some or more extent till date. As a percentage of the total labor force in the country, agricultural laborers and cultivators accounted 2% of male and 71% of female labor respectively. This illustrates the continuing importance of the agricultural sector in the lives of the Indian people. So, not only for production of gains or food stuff, so we depend upon agriculture, but also for the people depend for labor for activities also. People depend upon agriculture. Then what is the second economic aspect? That is employment. Rural employment. When we think about rural employment, then things come to our mind: unemployment and underemployment. Unemployment means there is no employment. What is underemployment? Underemployment and seasonal unemployment is a characteristic feature of rural employment. Why? Underemployment refers to the existence of idle time. Idle time means when you remain idle without any work. The low productivity levels. Why low productivity levels? Because in agricultural lands, we can't get a work throughout the 12 months a year. There are breaks. So, some breaks are there where there is no work. So, during that period, the people remain unemployed. The pressure of population and the unequal distribution of land and assets are responsible for the existence of this situation. Why people remain unemployed or underemployed or seasonal unemployment? Because these rural people are not so skilled to engage themselves in other activities during the break period or during the off time of a season of a particular uh, time of a year. So what they will do? They will sit idle. So this will create unemployment situation. And if we will come to the particular emphasized agricultural aspects on economic economic aspects or economic structure of India, then definitely trends in agricultural growth we have to consider, we have to see, we have to take a look on it. Indian agriculture depends upon the monsoon, which provides 74% of the country's annual rainfall and is the chief source of water. The distribution of this rainfall is uneven both with respect to time and with respect to region. You can't get equal rainfall in every area of India. So, accordingly, the agricultural production differs. Accordingly, the agricultural production, the rate of agricultural production, the quantity of agricultural production, and the quality also differs. This is an important determinant of a very large diversity in agricultural cropping systems in different parts of India. Dependence on the monsoon also exposes Indian farmers to hazards of the weather. Why? Because if proper irrigation will not be supplied, then what will happen? People will not self-sufficient to get the agricultural cropping systems properly who are dependent upon monsoon, because we can't set any guarantee or we can't expect that this year the monsoon or the rainfall will be sufficient for the production. So ultimately the production affects. To understand the path of agricultural growth in modern India, let us first recognize that agricultural growth can occur on account of the growth of crop area. Crop area, the cultivable land or cultivable areas where we can go for multiple cropping pattern. What is multiple cropping pattern? The change of crops from time to time, not defining or not limiting the land for a particular cropping pattern. It can go for various cropping crops to be produced. In the off time, you can go for various flowers, for sericulture, for horticulture, or anything like that. Because farmers produce more on a unit of land, that is, improvement per hectare yields could be gained. What are the major crops grown in India? To answer this, we have to see that what is the net sown area, what is the gross cropped area, and the index of multiple crop. What is net sown area? Net sown area means where these where the farmers get puts their seed in a particular area. Gross crop area, the particular area of field which keeps production throughout the year in some way or other, and the index of multiple cropping. If we can extract more production from the same land by utilizing other multiple cropping pattern by interchange or exchange of crops from time to time. Net sown area refers to all the land under cultivation. Since the late 1960s, the net sown area in the country has not changed significantly because we, the particularly the farmers are not so well educated or well trained to develop their skills in this area. Then some other farmers are also dependent upon animal husbandry and other allied agricultural activities. Not only agriculture means agriculture is the only economic aspects in rural areas, but animal husbandry and other agricultural activities are also contributing to the economics of rural areas. The share of livestock sector in the aggregate national income was about 5.5% in 1999 to 2000. It has increased up to 2%, 0.2% in the recent era. India has a large livestock population, about 16% of the world's cattle and 57% of the world's buffalo population is in India. So it is also another plus one. The people depend upon cows and buffaloes to get milk as one of the main products of animal husbandry, and nowadays there are more and more existence of the dairy milks, dairy farming, and the milk units, dairy units, and dairy cooperatives also available there to purchase the milk in sufficient quantity and to distribute it. So India produces about 85 million tons of milk, which accounts for about 13% of the total milk production in the world. So animal husbandry and other allied agricultural activities also are very important aspects in rural economic structure. Then what are the non-agricultural activities? In India, the non-agricultural activities uh, related to sugarcane, oil seeds processing, and the other small and large food processing units or industries, having both the forward and backward linkages with other institutions are playing important role. Then the last unit is your rural poverty. It is a well-known term, poverty. We uh, daily to speak out on debates on poverty, but particularly very few persons know about the real concept of statistics of poverty. What are the concept and measures? Poverty is mainly of two kinds. First one is your relative poverty, and second one is your absolute poverty. What is absolute poverty? Absolute poverty is measured against a predetermined level of living that families should be able to afford. What that means? Consumption of food, grains, vegetables, milk products, and other items that are necessary for a healthy living and access to other non-food items are included in the absolute minimum consumption basket. Means what are the basic requirements? It is not only the food, shelter, and clothing, but what are needed for a healthy lifestyle. If we are not getting that, then we will say that absolute poverty is. People with consumption expenditure below this threshold are considered poor. The relative position of a person or household does not matter. The $1 or 1 rupee consumption expenditure per capita in for um, what individual purchasing or per capita purchasing power PPP per capita means individual purchasing power is an absolute poverty line accepted internationally. In our country, the Planning Commission works out poverty lines for urban and rural areas respectively every year. Which line will be considered as the uh, basic line? Below that, we will call it as below poverty line, and above that, we will call as we will not define him or her as poor. What is relative poverty? Relative poverty considers the overall income distribution and the position of the household within the distribution. The relative position of one group of people is compared with another. In absolute poverty, every individual is taken into consideration, and in relative poverty, every household. One group of people is compared with another group. Whether this group is relatively poorer than the other group or relatively less poorer than the other group. It is also compared within the states, countries also. Then what are the dimensions of poverty? Why people become poor? The first reason is income and consumption. Obviously, when we will have 10 people in a household, in a house, and we will earn only 10,000. 10 people and 10,000. Then how, what is the amount per people in this aspect? 1,000 per month. So, can you think, is it possible to live happily with 1,000 only per month? Can we imagine? It's very difficult. So, what is the income we are earning? Isn't every person's income? And how do we compare? If income is also higher, but we also spend it in unusually, then also we become poor. So, income and consumption both are important dimensions of poverty. Then education. Without education, we can't just think of to be rich, because education is the only source where it will give you scope to earn, and education will show you different aspects where you can gain different skills to improve yourself to earn more. Then population. In a country where population is more, definitely the poverty will there, because the per capita income and expenditure will be affected likely, and employment. If you are not employed, then definitely we can't think of a better living. If likely, if in a family only one person is employed and 9 members are dependent upon them, then ultimately we can estimate the poverty. And if 5 persons are employed and 4 persons are dependent, then ultimately the living condition will differ from the other. Then agriculture. Because more than 60% of people are dependent in our India on agriculture. So, and as we have already discussed that agriculture is not, we can't expect that agricultural production or engage, we can't be engaged in the agricultural land throughout the year. So, unemployment, underemployment, partial employment, all these will come into existence. So, definitely it will lead to poverty. So, along with agriculture, if we will have some skills to utilize those skills in our off period, then definitely poverty would be handled up to some extent. Then vulnerable. Who are the vulnerables? Vulnerables means weaker sections. Who are prone to be poor? The women who are often not allowed to go for employment to share their earnings for their family members, the children, the weaker section, the older people. So these are the vulnerable and also the illiterates. So these are the dimensions of poverty, and according to the reasons and dimensions we can handle it. What are the measures of poverty? How we measure? It could be measured in two aspects. First one is your head count ratio, the most common measure to count the number of persons below the poverty line according to the per capita income. Per capita, per person, per capita income. Poverty gap ratio, it is the depth of poverty where consumption of every person below poverty line increases but still remains below poverty line because the income increases and also the expenditure increases. So there comes the poverty gap. How poverty could be estimated? First, the survey of BPL. Below poverty line, how many people are there? If we survey, then there comes the estimation of poverty. How it will be surveyed? First, size of operational land holding. Because people are um, dependent, mostly people are dependent on lands, so size of operational land. Operational land holding means the land which is in use for agricultural purpose. Then types of houses. How many houses are there? The pakka houses, how many the kacha houses? Then food security. How many families are assured of getting 2 times meal a day? Then your status of household labor force. Status of household labor force means how many people are engaged in labor sector and how much they are on. Then means of livelihood. What are the means for which they are dependent to where they are on? What are the means of livelihood? Then who is a poor? We descriptively we say that he is a poor man. We in debates we describe that. But who is a poor? Literally, poor is known as the person who has no land, or we can say that landless. The unemployed person also could be called as the poor because he or she is dependent upon others. Women, the lower castes, and the traditional occupations. the, who are the people who are dependent upon traditional occupations, they are also more suspected to be poor. Why? Because they are limited to their own limited on. So all these are vulnerable to be poor. Next, what are the aspects how we could eradicate poverty? We could eradicate poverty by taking into consideration or by involving ourselves in poverty alleviation programs. What are the poverty alleviation programs? There are different programs and projects run by our government from time to time for earning, for self-earning, for the employment and other aspects. And this could be utilized very well. Particularly now there is the well availability of self-help groups, microfinance organizations, and other banking sectors providing, extending their help um, widely. And not only the poverty alleviation programs will be helpful only, the proper monitoring, implementation, evaluation of the poverty alleviation program will be helpful to be succeeded in alleviating poverty. So these are all about your block 1. Please share your questions, whatever you like to ask me about your queries. You unmute your mic and please ask me. This is open to you all students. Whatever doubts are there with you, you can share. Regarding your study works, assignments, or any kind of help.
हेलो
Hello.
मैडम नमस्कार मो केउझर कହୁଛି ମୁଁ सीआरडी ର ବହି ଏଯାଏଁ ପାଇନି ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆସିନି ତ ସେଇଟା କେମିତି ପାଇପାରିବି କାହାକୁ କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟ କଲେ
मैडम मैडम बही पाइबा ପାଇଁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ pandemic situation ଅଛି ତ postal ରେ ବହି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆସିବ wait
ଆଜ୍ଞା
for that because ଏବେ କି କିଛି କରିପାରିବେନି you will get the material from the headquarter ଆପଣଙ୍କ postal address ରେ ଆସିବ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ link ପଠେଇ ଦେଇଛୁ I had sent
ଆଜ୍ଞା
link to all the students to download that link as long as you got not the study material kindly go through with the soft copy
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ ଥିଲା ଯୋଉ ମୋର ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ର କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ ଡାଉନଲୋଡ୍ କଲି ସିଆରଡି ର ସେଥିରେ ଲେଖା ଅଛି କି ଜାନୁଆରୀ 2020 ସେସନ ଷ୍ଟୁଡେଣ୍ଟ ମାନେ ସେପ୍ଟେମ୍ବର 30 2020 ଭିତରେ ସବମିଟ୍ କରିବେ ତ ଆମର ଜୁନରେ ଆମେ ଏକ୍ଜାମ
ନାଇଁ
ଦବୁ
ନାଇଁ
କି ଡିସେମ୍ବର
ଆପଣ ବିଫୋର ଆପଣ ଜୁନ୍ ରେ ଯଦି ଚାହୁଁଛନ୍ତି ଦେଇପାରିବେ and you will submit your assignment on and before when April 30th okay
ସେ
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ତ
ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି
ଏବେ
ଆମେ
pandemic ଅଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ pandemic ବନ୍ଦ ଅଛି ଖୋଲିଲେ ଦେବେ
ଆମେ ଡିସେମ୍ବରରେ ଦେବା
ଆପଣ
ପାଇଁ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ
ଏକ୍ସାମ ଦେବେ ଜୁନ୍ ରେ ଡିସେମ୍ବର ଦେଲେ ଡିସେମ୍ବର ଦେଇପାରିବେ ତାହେଲେ ଫୁଲ
ଏଇଟା ଆମର
ଫର୍ମ
6
ଫିଲଅପ
month ର
this is valid for 2 years minimum duration 6 months maximum is 2 years so you can
ଆଚ୍ଛା
appear on
ଠିକ ଅଛି
December not
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ସାର୍ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ସୋ ମଚ୍
Any question related to this block? Any queries? Have you any question regarding this block for which we discussed?
you are attending the class but you have no doubts
This is
at least you
particularly
ask
counseling session. Means
yeah, regarding the counseling, if you have any question, you ask. I mean, whatever the madam has presented, you ask her the question.
Hi, ma'am.
hello.
Ma'am, I am Kesav. Ma'am,
Yes.
can you explain nature of the distribution of power in rural India?
Nature of the distribution of power in rural India. It is a different block. It is in the different block. So we will discuss in that block. Okay.
Thank you,
This
ma'am.
is particularly we discussed about rural society and economy. What you have a doubt in your mind, you can ask me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Regarding rural society and economy and all about the law, whatever you want to ask me. And also you could discuss about these assignment questions also. If you have any doubt, you can ask.
Hello,
Madam,
ma'am.
you tell
Hello? Yes?
Ma'am,
Huh. In tea journey? Huh. Hello?
hello, ma'am. Please explain rural credit markets again.
Rural credit market. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
In our India, particularly rural people were dependent upon the rural landlords before the Britishers and also after few years also, after leaving the Britishers. And it was a very big problem for them to to be dependent upon the rural landlords. They were very much exploitative and they were getting more torture from them. To solve this problem, rural credit market came into existence where people get loan easily with available subsidies and with a lower uh, interest rate. With a lower interest rate, people get that for particularly for agricultural aspects and allied activities or your animal husbandry, people can get the rural credit market. Here, if you put in your block one, there is very few description about rural credit market, so that I explain very in a very few lines. We will discuss it descriptively in further classes. Particularly, you have to write this much that now there is the availability of rural credit markets, so well planned by the government and other sectors, other banking sectors, and people get with a lower interest rate and with also provision of subsidies. So they get rid of the torture or exploitation of the landlords.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question? Have you seen the assignment questions? All of you? Any doubt
ma'am.
regarding the assignment questions?
And about the 40 mark question, how much pages will write?
Is not that but they have mentioned about the word limit or not? Is there any word limit in the subject?
Hmm?
Any word limit is mentioned there? If you word limit
Thousand,
is there,
1000 words the academy.
you can estimate in a particular sentence there consists of around 10 to 12 words. Okay, so you have to write 100 sentences or 100 lines. Roughly, you have to write 100 lines. Okay, so in a white paper, in a blank sheet, how many lines, sentences are you writing? It is dependent upon you. So you have to write 100 sentences, around 100.
Ma'am, will write on paper or word file?
What?
Word file. No?
Yes. But it is mentioned that you have to write it in your own mark,
Yes, ma'am.
your own
Own marks.
handwriting will be photocopied and sent to you. Okay.
Will write on word file, no, ma'am?
write it in your own handwriting.
Will write on copy?
Yes. You have to write in your own handwriting. Take the photo and send.
Thank you. Ma'am, I have a question regarding the rural areas. You had mentioned the banking facility in the rural areas, but mainly in the rural areas, the hospital sector should be better. As for the government, they are trying to means what guidelines should be what step should government take to betterment of hospital sector in rural areas?
Okay.
Are
So,
there so few?
yes. Have you gone through the blocks of MRT1? In this block, we have studied particularly about the rural society and economy. Okay, rural society and economy. So, what are the aspects of rural society and how rural economy is dependent upon each other that we have discussed. The hospital aspects we have not discussed at all in this class. So, we will discuss about that in further classes. But still, I will say that there is a necessity. But even primary healthcare centers are widely available in rural areas, but we have to give importance on other aspects also, and the government is taking steps to uh, eliminate this problem and to take steps. Particularly after the government is taking all steps to take out the as early as possible. If you have any question about rural society and economy, ask me. Yeah, particularly block if you have any or of this assignment, if you have any question, because we have limited time.
Last date of assignment is 30th April. Submitting assignment.
Yes, April 30th. Any question regarding the assignment?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, the plain paper, right, or ruling paper?
So
Which
we
will
have to
better?
write plain paper.
Plain.
Plain paper, you have to keep 1 inch margin. In the left side, you have to give 1 inch margin, and then
Yes, ma'am.
one side only you have to write.
Yes. Thank you.
Any further question? Deepanjali, you have to listen carefully.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
question is there?
Yes, ma'am. I will go to the materials. Then I will ask in the next class.
Oh. If anyone wants to please then please unmute your mic.
So there is no further any question.
Is there any question?
So if you don't have any question, then wind up the session then. So tomorrow, I mean, okay, fine. Thank you. Tomorrow in the same time, 2 o'clock, you have another class, the MRD 2.02. So kindly circulate this message to all of you. So DP Patnaik, you have the another council will take the session tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So now we'll wind up the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thanks to us. Have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Stop recording.